Hello, my friend, and welcome to Peaceful Prosperity. I'm your host, Oliver Manalese. I'm very grateful that you could join today. I'm doing a series about before I called myself a coach. So if you'd like to check in on some of the previous episodes, please feel free to do that. But by all means, we're here right now in this moment, sharing in this conversation today together. But today I want to talk to you about what it looked like for me to finally recognize that I was coaching way before I even took ownership or claimed that as one of my gifts or even as a job title. A lot of people who serve as guides, as coaches, can find themselves in. And so maybe you can relate to this experience as well. And so, as I shared with you in the previous episodes, I had closed down my company and I had gone through this self discovery journey. And once things began to finally settle, and I was no longer in the feeling of my entire life being unraveled, and things were able to slow down, and I could finally take a breath. The question inside of me started to emerge of what was happening in some of these instances in the past. Because once I wasn't in this intense grieving period any longer, I finally had this space to finally just allow my mind to wander, to allow my mind to explore what were some of the moments that really stood out. And for me, some of the things that I started to kind of come back to over and over and over again, this pattern, this theme that just kept repeating, was all these souls that were coming into my life. All of these conversations that found their way to me. And it wasn't like these strategic conversations. It wasn't giving advice. It wasn't fixing, but they were powerful. And I just really remember that there were these coffee dates. There were these walks I would go on with friends of mine, with people who were in my circle. I'd have people at a Starbucks with me falling into puddles of tears from the questions I would ask, just fall silent. These people who were once so filled with things to say and things to talk about, and just these feelings that they would express to me, just feelings of being heard, of being seen. And a few of those people were like, "Can I pay you for this?" That's when, I shrugged that off. I didn't even take that as a sign. I had some people who said, "Man, you would be an amazing coach." And so after, after these conversations, I would just let that go. I wouldn't even think anything of it because I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not any of these Tony Robbins or Robin Sharma, people I had been reading over the years. But it did start to speak to me when I started to reflect on it afterwards. Because I think a part of what felt really natural and felt really obvious to me was to share parts of my story, to meet people where they were at, to use aspects of what I had gone through, what I had observed in myself, and use that as a way to mirror back what I was seeing. And to use some of the questions that I had asked myself over the years that have been influenced and inspired by people I had learned to, books that I had read, and mentors and coaches that I had along the way, whether informally or actually formally. And when I think about it, man, like I just have this ability to remember specific metaphors and quotes and analogies and stories that would help shine a light into a particular theme in someone's life. I would use these examples of ways so that we can step outside of these situations and look inwards and have a very different vantage point. And so naturally, without even trying, without effort, these are the things that I was already doing inside of these conversations, which is why I'm sure some of them said, I should be paying you for this, or you should be charging for this, or you'd be a great coach. And yet, like, that fell on my deaf ears. Because a part of the story that I was telling myself, and it was unconscious, and maybe this is something that you could relate with as well. I honestly thought that first I had to succeed. I needed to reach a certain level of wealth and status and financial freedom. And then I would have the authority to be of service in that way, to speak on stage, to be a coach, to be a guide for somebody. And what an interesting trap that actually is, because you can justify it. It's rational. It makes a lot of sense. I also had this idea of like, well, I'm not trained as a coach. I never went to school for coaching. I didn't have credentials for it. And so it was just like this story or this idea that somehow the people that I had looked up to, the books, the authors of the books that I had read, there's no way I could be like them, because I put them on a pedestal. I never thought that I could do what they do. And yet here it was right in front of me. I was receiving and I was being given these different seeds, these different nudges of where my path was actually leading me to. And honestly, I don't know where I got these ideas from. I honestly, with the clients that I work with who are in this path of being a coach and being a guide, whether in my private coaching, group coaching, or my apprenticeship program, it's something I think that we have this paradigm. There's a worldview that we come from this place of not enoughness. That only until I've done enough, I need to be enough. I need to be a better version of myself. What I got, what I've gone through, what I've been through, who I am right now, there's no way that's enough. To be a guide, to serve as a coach for somebody else, that's not enough. There's got to be more. I need to learn more, I need to have more, I need more credentials after my name. And so I do feel like that it comes from this sense of I am not enough. And I think also because of just the way that we are brought up into the way that we relate with academia, the way that we relate with titles and diplomas and degrees, is that we think that there's like this level of formality that it requires. And not to take anything away from trainings and certifications, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you would be, that you are called to be a coach, that your gift is to serve as a guide for someone's life path. Because you can have all the knowledge, but not have implemented it or not know how to translate that into someone's particular part of their path, or to be able to use that as a way to mirror and reflect what is happening in the soul of another person. And so you can accumulate a pile of knowledge and know all of these things. And as impressive as it might be, if you haven't turned that into true understanding and true wisdom and lived experience and results, it doesn't have the same amount of value. I looked at some of the people that were ahead of me, that I looked at who were almost intimidated me. And it was so interesting that earlier on in my coaching practice, there were people who were so much further ahead in life. They'd gotten married and have started families and have created more wealth and have more status and have higher titles and have higher degrees of learning than me. And I would put them up on a pedestal too, with so much more authority. And yet, for some reason, as I was in the process of sharing and letting people know this journey that I had been going through, this reinvention process that I had been going through of letting go of an old life and embracing a new path, a number of them were drawn to me. And this is something, and it reminds me of a teaching that one of my coaches and mentors, Hans Phillips, huge shout out, he's a powerful human being. He's the one who trained me in ontological coaching. He says, that's important that you have people around you that have something that you don't and come to you for your guidance and for your support, because it'll help you recognize and own the fact that you got something that they don't. So put in another way, we can put people on a pedestal because they're so far ahead of us in one area, and we wonder, why are they coming to me? It's because we are ahead in some respects that they are not. And that is of tremendous value. And if we fail to recognize that, it's going to be very difficult to get to a place of really owning our gifts. And so the things that I had clung to, that I was so drawn to when it comes to all of the personal development, the spiritual work, the philosophical understandings, the self-study that I had done, the journaling, the conversations, the coaching I'd received, the mentoring I'd received, all of the deep diving, all of the unpacking that I had done into this point. Again, not that it's ever done, because that keeps going, that journey keeps going. You start to realize something that I teach is this: life is a spiral. We feel like we've come across a lesson, a hard-won lesson, and it's like, amazing, I'm good, I figured that part out of my life. And then months later, years later, we come back and we're like, oh my gosh, why am I stuck in this issue again? I thought I had learned that lesson. But to me, I experienced life as a spiral, that we're spiraling upwards, and we might cycle through the same challenges, the same pains, the same issues, but we're seeing it from a different vantage point. There's a greater depth, there's a greater degree of appreciation of some of those pain teachers, of some of those insights, of some of those principles. And so, having spent many, many hours, weeks, months, years with some of these questions and observing myself and just meditating on it for so long, there are some people that were coming to me for support and guidance who hadn't, for one reason or another. busy lives, full lives, lots of responsibilities, family, children, business, work. They have lots going on. And maybe it's not their passion, it's not their interest to geek out on some of these aspects around self-knowledge and self-love and self-expression and what it means to find purpose and fulfillment, what it means to uncover what your unique gift and your unique value is in this world. And so I think what's really beautiful about life, as painful as so many aspects are, and we can be walking through hell, walking through the wilderness, and you might be there right now where you don't know what lies ahead. What I do know is that it's not accidental. That there's a reason why we are led into these dark nights, as they're called. Because when you can't see and you can't feel and you can't use your senses, you got to have faith in this process. You have to have faith that God is leading the way, that there's something greater at work. And leaning on that requires so much surrender to grace. And so when it came to me finally surrendering and being like, oh, it almost just like it was not like this fireworks moment. It wasn't this breakthrough moment, although it was definitely a breakthrough insight. But it was just this, oh, it just finally came together and it just felt like, right, that makes so much sense. How have I not seen that before? All the math started to add up. So I think as you listen to this, maybe if you're looking for that dramatic moment where the skies open up and the heavens part and the sun beams directly upon your face, and then you receive that clarity and that wisdom and that aha, and you finally are, you feel like you get it. Maybe it's unfair to expect that. Maybe that's a fantasy that you won't ever realize. Maybe it'll be more like, oh, that's obvious. Oh, wow. Like, how have I not seen this all along? It's just kind of right there in front of you. And so as we, come towards the close of this video in the series, when I look back, when I was looking at these different dots and trying to connect them, I thought I had to have authority and status and success and wealth and all of these, training and certifications and, to really have that title. But really all I was doing, it wasn't like I wasn't teaching or fixing or solving. I wasn't performing in any of these conversations where people were receiving such immense value and making bold decisions and feeling moved to make a change in their life. What I was really doing was holding a sacred space for them. It was a space where they could just allow themselves to put the armor down, to put the persona down, to put the act down, and just let someone see them and let themselves finally be heard. That's what I was trying to provide. But really, it's permission for them to see and finally hear themselves inside of that space. That when they let that truth out, it actually can breathe and they can be with it, and they can see so much more clearly who they are, who they're becoming, who they've been. That's, that's the essence to me of coaching. I was talking about this with my group clients the other day. They were trying to describe this work that they've been deep into. It's like, I've been in this group coaching program for like a year. I still can't even describe it to people. And here's my latest take on it. A powerful coach, someone who's truly called to be a coach, where they're not doing it for themselves, or not trying to elevate themselves in any way, but they're actually more committed to the potential of others. They're committed to the healing and the transformation of others. That kind of coach. They're a mirror to help you see exactly who you are right now, and to see yourself as an aged, elderly person on their deathbed with crystal clarity, and also be able to see their youthful child version of themselves with their whole life ahead of them, to see themselves within these different timelines, past, present, and future, and come home to this moment with that appreciation, with that greater perspective that this child, this young version of myself, has wounds that need to be healed. They have dreams that want to be realized. And this future version of myself has regrets, has things that they're thankful for, things that worked, things that led them astray. And it is in this moment, here and now, where I could actually bring the lessons of the past and provide the process of healing and the process of grief, and to reclaim the dreams of the past version of myself, where I can avoid the future regrets, where I can maintain and deepen the blessings and the gifts of the present, and do the things right now that my future self will be thankful for. That is the power of coaching, to be able to provide that mirror. And so as you're hearing this, if you're starting to be reminded at this moment of the countless people who are opening up to you, who tell you, oh my gosh, I don't know why I'm telling you all this stuff. I can't believe I'm sharing all this information with you. And they're just so raw, so vulnerable. And they're sharing the deepest depths of who they are with you, their fears, their dreams, their insecurities, their aspirations. And if these conversations, they keep finding you. You're not even looking for them, but they keep finding you. Realize that is such a gift. That there's something in your way of being, who you've become up to this point, has made you a person of trust. A person who is safe to be with. Where if I share the ugliness of myself with you, I know that I'm going to be safe, that you're not going to threaten, you're not going to judge, you're not going to criticize, that you are going to be able to hold a space of grace for me. And so if that's happening to you, I invite you to ask yourself the question, what is that trying to communicate to you? What is that pointing to you? So, my friend, as we come to a close with today's episode, I want to share with you just how excited I am about my coaching apprenticeship that I'm starting in January 2026. And I'm holding a few free information sessions in the coming days. And just to discuss and to help discern if this is a calling for you, if having a structure, a foundation, a language that helps you claim ownership of your gift as a coach, then I invite you to consider checking it out. I'll make sure that there's a link available in the description so you can see if there's any dates that actually work for you. Apprenticeship requires a very special relationship. Um, I want to work with people who I like and who I can see that light inside of them, that they care for and are about the healing and transformation of the people around them. So that's really what this space is meant to be. It's to help you connect the dots of if this is where your life is headed, whether as a career path or just an aspect of your life, a very sacred part of your life. So we'll explore it very honestly and without any pressure to enroll into the apprenticeship. And that is it. I'm so grateful that you are with me in this series. I pray that you hear and see aspects of your own story with a greater level of texture and nuance and light. I pray that you start to notice and start to be much more observant with the gifts that God has carved into your soul. Because when you start to realize what that is and where it comes from and why it's been given to you, something about your entire life will just start to rearrange and realign. It doesn't mean you need to flip your life upside down. It doesn't mean you need to start a whole new career, but it does mean that you start to recognize the immense responsibility it is and privilege and honor it is to have something very similar to what I have. Because it's incredibly sacred. It's incredibly special. And so, my friend, I'm looking forward to joining you in the next video, and I'm grateful that you came to join with me today. I look forward to being with you again soon. Be well. God bless you.